Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. Happy to have you in the space that is mine. So today's video is going to cover some time theory and time theory that relates to the cognitive functions. As you guys know, I'm weird about time. It's the most valuable resource. And so because of that, this has really become fascinating to me, and I've been spending a lot of mental energy on it, just kind of working it through. So I'm here to share it with you today, and here we go. Let's get into it. Okay, so for this video, we're going to be talking about the NE-SI axis and the NI-SE axis. I have a theory that the NI-SE axis, and NI in particular, tracks time by the space between events or moments. It's tracking this non-sensory distance, and it's able to predict with a high amount of accuracy the sensory time allotment that would coincide with this space that has spanned from one point, the start point, to one point, the end point. NI is tracking this cognitive interpretation of space-time. Conversely, the SI-NE axis is tracking time through a more traditional sense. It is focusing on the specific start times or the singular moments on the timeline that it is responsible for. So let's bring in a sensory example for some context, shall we? Don't get too excited, it's still gonna be pretty vague. So, for example, let's say after work, I have 3 things that I'm trying to get done or accomplish. I don't schedule them based off start times, but I still get them done. This is because I fully know by feel how long each one will take, even if I've never done it before. My consciousness is attuned to the space between the beginning and the end of an event, versus just a traditional start and end time. Or it's conscious of what this space should look like, or behave like, rather. This allows for my weekly and monthly schedules to basically just auto-populate in my mind based off the space that each action or event should fill. Then, if there is an random chaos change of plans, I can rearrange the blocks based on the space within them instead of based on the time that they start. For me, the start time comes once the space-time is acknowledged. It's not that first I establish a start time or look to the start time and then build out in a linear fashion. So, does this work? Well, at the end of the day, I usually have everything I plan to have done. Okay, so how does this differ from the SI-NE axis? The way that I see it, SI, for instance, would want to leave the house at 4:45 because the GPS said that it would take 40 minutes to get to the location, and then having 5 minutes to park and, walk into the event or the venue that is supposed to start at 5:30 would be an acceptable standard amount of time to allot to that. And that's kind of how they would proceed in determining and getting to their action at a specific time. It's almost as if SI is moving down a timeline in a straight path, whereas NI is looking above the timeline and it's looking at the space in between each of those moments and judging the distance between them. It's a common anecdote that people with SI as first or dominant function are real sticklers for time. And generally, I would agree that people with sensory in general, SI or SE, tend to respect sensory time in a more traditional sense as it relates to clocks and schedules and apps to plan time and things like that. However, I would argue that the NI function would be a close second, but it just tracks time in this completely different way. NI isn't relying on the physical sensory scheduling tools, but on its understanding of space between events, start points and end points of whatever it could be. It could be physical things, it could be non-physical things. For instance, if I was to say, hey, I have an hour to talk with you, and know that it started at 4 o'clock, I would be pretty sure and pretty certain by the time it reached right about 5 o'clock, almost on the dot, because of the amount of space that has passed. It wouldn't be because I was looking at a clock or, I had an alarm, which, I will use alarms to trigger start points for me. But I will have this understanding of and feeling really of the space between moments that, okay, now I know it's probably about 5 o'clock. And it's weird because NI will tend to do that in other areas too. It'll use like 1 or 2 reference points of triangulation and then gather in this is probably what has happened within this space. So anyway, that's it for this video. I made this video as a result of hearing a few people say that, you know, people with intuition tend to not be good with time in certain ways or tend to always be late for things. And I know for myself that's not the case. And I know a lot of people with dominant NI, but that is not the case for as well. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you guys in my next video. Blog post on this weirdness is linked below. All right, have a great one. Bye. Oh yeah, comments. We'll talk. All right, bye.